Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Gargoyles episode reviews. Today we're wrapping up Outfoxed. Fox's plan to take over Cyberbiotics by infecting its robots and crashing the airship into Cyberbiotics Tower is coming along. Renard and Goliath will race to shut down the bots and regain control of the ship. Meanwhile, Vogel threatens to activate the ship's self-destruct mechanism. Why is Fox so interested in Cyberbiotics, and what's the secret she's keeping? One thing's for certain, House Xanatos will never be the same after this. Missed the first half? Well, you can go read it, or watch it. Yeah, keep that behemoth over the Hudson, please. There's the big old airship. Vogel reports, in mild panic, that the Cyberbiotics robots have altered the ship's course to ram into the Cyberbiotics tower in the bay. He can't override them. I gotta say, he puts on a good act. He accuses Goliath, the creature, of bringing the virus aboard. Renard doesn't seem to buy this, but there's no time to tell Preston so. And there's Vogel yelling into his computer. Wow, we can actually see the force of his hammer fist there. Side note, it's ironic that human betrayal is sinking the ship just like it sank Fortress 1. Renard forgot that every system created by humans can be sabotaged or circumvented by humans. There's 7 minutes till the ship hits the tower. No time to evacuate. Vogel is going to abandon the ship in 6 minutes. If Renard doesn't meet him at the escape pods, then Vogel will activate the self-destruct system on the ship. Haha, 7 minutes. Wesker would be proud. Whoa. Self-destruct? Isn't that dangerous to have that capability? And why would this be a safer option than the ship crashing? You can't tell me that having the monstrosity blow up in midair would have a better outcome than just setting it down as a crash landing. Jumbo jets don't have self-destruct systems. Yeesh, it's something that only crappy villains put in their layers. What follows is the protagonist's valiant struggle to shut down the reactor in the middle of the ship, which will shut down the bots. There's a lot of exploding robots and lasers and running/rolling through the ship halls. Yeah, Renard, right there in the action. Good grief, why does this ship need so many bots? Why not just automate more tasks so the ship itself can deal with them? No wonder Cyberbiotics will go bankrupt if the stupid ship goes down. And, why do you want a bankrupt company? I mean, why do you even bother with Cyberbiotics? I guess Fox would just kind of strip the corpse here and take whatever loot she can get, in technology. But again, I think that Xanatos Enterprises has far outpaced Cyberbiotics. Probably 2/3 of the price of this thing that cost to get operational went to making robots. Yeah. The Steel Clan's 3 to 6 members are nothing compared to the number of machines that roam around Fortress 2. Vogel, how does he have any investors? Seriously. Vogel tries to talk Renard out of going to the bridge. It seems Preston really does care for the old guy. That's what makes me believe Vogel thinks/rationalizes Cyberbiotics going down would be a good idea, something that would help Renard in the end. Maybe Fox convinced him of this. Vogel isn't a villain. He's only a sort of antagonist at this point. Well, no surprise, Goliath shuts down the reactor. And I don't really know if it's nuclear or whatever. I hope not, especially if they're going to do some self-destruct thing on this craft. Renard, meanwhile, makes it to the bridge. Dementia must be setting in, because only after he arrives does he remember that it takes 2 people to override the autopilot on the ship. Okay, why is that a feature? You've only got 2 people on it anyway. Okay, the rest are robots. So who would be messing with the autopilot, and why would you need 2 people to override it? You're not launching nukes here. Who should show up but Vogel? He's cocky at first, and says, it must have slipped your mind that 2 men are required for an emergency course override. Or he's looking snarky. Renard is part Vulcan, I'm telling you, though. He's got these pointy ears. Renard is still trusting, thus totally misses the mockery in Preston's tone. Mr. Vogel, I knew you wouldn't let me down. He calls Preston Mr. Vogel, while Xanatos calls Owen by his first name. It's just an observation, so you know that the relationship between these two here is pretty formal, pretty professional, whereas Owen and Xanatos are friends, and you can also tell that from the way that they use sarcasm and ribbing in their interactions. Vogel says, yes, well, you have that effect on people. No, Not really, Vogel. He just has that effect on you, obviously. I was all set to have Vogel, say he just came back to mock Renard face to face, but no. Preston has turned back to the side of good and proceeds to help also turn the ship, saving it and the tower at the last moment. Maybe Vogel decided his long game options were better if he stuck with Renard. I don't know the wisdom of that. You basically pissed off House Xanatos, and that's not a good move. Now you're with a company that thinks giant airships full of robots is a lucrative endeavor, even though it will crumble if the ship goes down. One ship to hang the fate of the company on. Reminds me a bit of Death World. You want a really uplifting and cheery thing to read there? Yeah, Death World. I'm being sarcastic. Vogel, on his part, is all set to pretend like he had nothing to do with the virus. But Goliath has other ideas. And Preston fesses up. I'm assuming Goliath kind of figured it was him because Preston was so quick to accuse Goliath of bringing the virus on board. And there's Vogel trying his hardest to, melt into the computer behind him while Goliath looms over him. And staring down the barrel of an angry gargoyle does wonders for taking responsibility and improving integrity. We cut to a little later with Renard and Goliath talking in a different room. Renard sees the betrayal as yet another proof that humans are devoid of moral fiber. Preston would probably admit to stealing anything or doing anything that Goliath demanded at this point. In a surprising turn, Goliath sticks up for Vogel. Seeing his actions at the end proved he did have integrity, and more importantly, he proves that humans can change. Robots are robots, but even antagonists, when they're flesh and blood, can change. 2020 moment. Yeah, unless the AI has achieved singularity, like Matrix in Walkabout. Goliath and Renard declare their friendship for each other, and Goliath's debt is repaid. A new friend for Goliath, one who's basically the antithesis of Xanatos, which makes him a guy I really don't like that much. Listen to them, the children of the night, what music they make, is a caption for this picture of Renard. I seriously say he looks like Dracula before Dracula has had his meal. Goliath leaves. He almost passes a hang glider, who soars up to the top of the ship a moment later. A masked ninja is flying it. Again, I don't think gliding works really well when you got those big old rotors on those ships. I think the downwash and the turbulence would just be too much. So yet again, we also have a hang glider with no harness. Alright, this ninja, she lands on the roof, then melts a hole through it with acid. She drops down a rope into the ship proper. Whoa, now, what's she up to? Also, one guess who this is. You can see she's got long red hair coming out the back of her mask. And she is fit. She creeps up behind Renard, who swivels his wheelchair to face her. Hello, Janine, he says. So this is the Janine that he lost? I did not see that coming. He knows her well enough to expect her arrival. The ninja pulls off her mask. Yeah, it's Fox. Hello, Daddy, she says. Oh, this explains why Fox is affluent. Okay, hang on now. How old is this guy? And we already touched that in the last time. He's about 67 here. So, did he contract some disease that aged him prematurely? So the answer would be yes. Or did he just get a late start at kids? That would also be a yes, honestly. Yeah. She leans down and kisses him on the cheek. After all this? She really doesn't bear any animosity toward him then, and he actually seems nonplussed by her attack on his company. Daddy's little girl. She plays rough, though. There's her giving him a kiss. Almost got you that time, didn't I? She says. These two. According to Greg, I'm quoting him again here, the whole sense that Fox is in all this is just for kicks. She's not as acquisitive as her husband. He'd always take the path of least resistance to a goal. If Renard would just give Janine the company, X would suggest she ask for it. But she doesn't care about the company, only the game. X likes the game, but he's also about results, all established in one little scene. I disagree, actually. And I mean, I know Greg knows his characters and everything, but I've still have the right to disagree. That Xanatos always takes the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance and leader of the pack was to just wait a few more months for Fox to be released. A number of his other plots aren't the path of least resistance either. Yeah, like Awakening, that was the path of so much resistance. Well, he wants the path of most results. It's like figuring out the route home that will take you past as many stores where you have errands to run as possible without backtracking or detouring. Also, Greg states elsewhere that if Fox hadn't wanted the company, she wouldn't have bothered with this, thus contradicting his statement above where he says she's just in it for the fun of it. Her prize had to be valuable to merit her effort, and because there are other ways to mess with her dad after all. So it had to be valuable, but her way of getting it also had to be fun. Again, I don't know why she truly wants it. Renard asks her why she did it. He built the company for her, after all. He would have given it to her if she'd just asked for it. And if she hadn't married that, quote, villain Xanatos. Well, here's the truth there. Heck, he'd still give it up if she'd just ask. My mind is officially blown at this point. You mean all that crap in Awakening could have been prevented? Fox could have just asked for cyberbiotics, taken it over, and let Xanatos Enterprise scavenge what it wanted. According to Greg, why all this hassle then? Because the writers didn't know Fox and David were an item at the time. Even at Thrill of the Hunt, they didn't know. Gotta love how the characters have a mind of their own when you're writing them. Also, though, it kind of leads to a lot of retconning, unfortunately. It's also interesting that Fox married the man who Renard probably dislikes above all others. I'm thinking this might be part of why she and David started dating in the first place, to bother the old man. David's a good 13 years older than Fox, so at this point that puts her at 27 years old. So Renard also likely thinks Xanatos tricked Daddy's little girl and is nothing but a cradle robber. He's wrong, of course. There's no other man on Earth who could make Fox as happy as David does. I also don't think there's another man on Earth who could do her justice and who could truly appreciate her like David does. Say what you will of House Xanatos, but they represent the strongest, healthiest relationship in the series. David is a fine husband, by all indications. 2020 moment, and an amazing dad, too. That makes me proud. Fox laughs off the idea and says asking for it wouldn't be any fun at all. And there she is. Hey, Petrov should be proud of her. She wants to earn her reward. Also note the animators actually remembered that she has green eyes and not blue. And he says, fun is still more important to you than honor. I can't understand that. And he's kind of face-palming there. I love that she's dressed as a ninja from the pack. Yeah. Renard, you just proved how your obsession with everyone being perfect, and you being very set in your ways, has basically made you lose hope in humanity and isolate yourself with robots. That's a little maladaptive. You have driven off everyone you love. I don't think highly of the human race either, but you gotta make the most of it, enjoying and even changing what you can. Nobody's perfect, including me. Roll with it, mate. Let's look at Renard's last comment. He doesn't understand her at all. She's probably a lot like her mom. Then, since Anastasia, assuming that was her mom and his wife, is also out from under his thumb. She grew up with a rigid workaholic father who didn't get her, and thus was unable to encourage her in the way she needed to be encouraged. Just like David's childhood. She obviously gets a thrill out of pestering or annoying her dad. They love each other, but it's a very strained relationship. I wonder if we'll get to meet her mother. 2020 moment. Yes, we do, and I do love the episodes with Anastasia / Titania in them. And I love their relationship too, their interactions, and how much Fox is like her mom. And I'm thinking David was probably like his mom too. I wish we'd gotten a chance, like maybe a flashback, to meet her. So, this is a lot like David and Petros' relationship. Petros doesn't appreciate the many good things in his son, instead focusing on the flaws. Petros also has a high moral standard, or so I assume, though it's tough to tell since his main gripe is that Xanatos hasn't earned a fortune, even though David grew 20K into billions. Unlike Fox, though, who doesn't seem to need Dad's approval, David still unconsciously seeks his father's attaboy. Speaking of David, this means his father-in-law is one of his biggest business rivals, not to mention a guy who hates his guts. So, not only does Xanatos not have a dad he can confide in, he's also missing a father-in-law to fill that slot. I'm guessing family reunions are not a big thing for Fox and David. Fox has heard her dad's sermons before. She takes his hand and puts it over her stomach as she replies, "Maybe you'll have better luck relating to the next generation." "That's right, Daddy. You're going to be a grandfather." Oh, mic drop. Are you serious? The main antagonists are gonna have a kid. Again, mind equals blown. Remember, this is a 1990s Disney animated series aimed at younger people. This is not anime. This is not even a live-action drama on a major network. Even those have usually don't have major irrevocable changes like this happening to their main characters, especially not to their antagonists. And a life change like a kid on a Disney show? But that would mean our antagonists, gasp, did the deed together. And this is why it's subversive, in Greg's opinion, because they got it past S&P. Because remember, S&P didn't realize that if you have two characters date, then certain things might follow. It also amuses me to no end to think of David Xanatos and Fox being a dad and mom. Unless you have a good knowledge of the characters, you might even wonder if they really wanted to be parents. They don't, on the surface, seem like the parental types, but when you look closer and you see it, it makes perfect sense. David's desire for a kid isn't a huge surprise. After all, in his marriage proposal was the fact that he and Fox are genetically compatible. Yeah, you're humans of opposite sex. Of course you're genetically compatible, but I think he was meaning more that they were both awesome genetic specimens. He wants loyalty from people. Over and over, he's tried to finagle the Gargoyles' loyalty. He even tried to make his own gargoyles. Fox and Owen are his best friends, and he knows he can trust them. Having a kid of his own to raise and train how he likes is logical. According to Greg, David's desire to have a child and to be a father isn't just another Xanatos scheme for self-gratification. Xanatos will strive to be the best dad he possibly can, and he will let his child know he's loved. David will, and again, there's that love theme that he tried to pretend like he was not really capable of doing or that he didn't need. David will avoid the errors of his own father's parenting style. And Fox is a little harder to read since we sadly don't have that many episodes with her, but I think her motive is a lot like David's. Plus, like a lot of women who have kids, she wants someone to love her. I mean, she has David, but, the more the merrier. Some people get pets for this reason, while others have munchkins. Yeah, I mean, I kind of view kids as like border collies that can talk, which may or may not be an improvement on the original border collie. You got dolphins and octopi and parrots, ravens, dogs. They all have the IQ of a 3-year-old, and I don't think we really need to go past that. No doubt she too wants to be a different parent than hers, and to show her father that her way of raising a kid is better than his. All that being said, this is a lot to get our minds around, given how conditioned we are to think of antagonists as somewhat one-dimensional characters who are only focused on screwing over the protags. It's still a bit odd to think of Fox and David imagining what it would be like to be a parent and then wanting to be one. Admit it. You have trouble picturing David looking at a friend's baby and thinking, I want one. Or of Fox seeing her young fans and thinking, someday I'll have a youngling of my own. I need a fic depicting how David reacted when he got the good news, because we don't have that. Well, okay, you're including a flashback to burn time, but you don't give us his reaction to hearing that he's going to be a dad. Oh, great. There was likely much rejoicing. The first person he told, after he finished kissing Fox, I'm sure, had to be Owen. 2020 moment. Puck had to be thrilled that his OTP was about to have a kiddo. Fae have an interest in raising kids, remember? At the same time, he freaked out seriously since Titania and Oberon were bound to roll up. We know Owen immediately commissioned the force field to be built around the Erie building, which, somehow Xanatos had absolutely no idea about. And I wonder if this was technology that they already had, and he just sort of repurposed it, because that would be an amazing, amazing technology. Owen no doubt smiled while shaking his employer's hand and congratulating him. In my bland headcanon, Owen has to put up with David randomly saying, "Owen, I'm going to be a dad," every hour or so for about a week. Final thoughts. Although Fox and David aren't in this episode that much, when they are, they're laying down some heavy revelations. That's why I love this episode. You learn so much about their characters. Even Renard being preachy as heck works for me. He's so lawful good, it's ridiculous. It's to the point that he gives Goliath a run for his money in the morality department. I respect the guy because he holds to what he believes, even if it costs him. He's of course right that personal responsibility and integrity are vital. They're the underpinnings of our society. But humans are humans. Everyone's born a sinner with a natural bent toward evil. Renard's fixation on his standards of morality blinds him to seeing that his son-in-law and daughter have their own type of personal responsibility and integrity. They do have their own standards, and they live by them. Look at Xanatos. He took full blame for the awakening debacle, keeping Owen out of prison. And this is my theory anyway. The security chief should have had a cell next to his boss for his involvement in the scheme. David is also fiercely devoted to Fox, even admitting that the Eye of Odin fiasco was his bad. And remember, he was ready to die for Fox, trying to save her from the Eye. He also went through all that hassle to get her out of prison early. So what about Fox? She's loyal to David, even when you could say that maybe he was part of why she went to prison. But she kind of took the responsibility there and realized that, hey, he didn't say take that fashion model prisoner. She also saw the value of taking responsibility for her actions when she decided to stay in prison, even though it was all a manipulation. She could have just ditched the plan and gone out with everybody else, which would have been really stupid, but that didn't stop the rest of the idiots. 2020 moment. And of course, the gathering shows how much they love their boy. This ep is also great because you know how much I love seeing Antagonist parents. It grounds them in reality and humanizes them. We also see partly why the Antag is the way he or she is. For me, the whole robot and virus plot takes a huge backseat to the House Xanatos having a kid. Oh, and the revelation that the uber-strict and self-righteous Renard is Fox's dad. The revelation that her name is Janine, meaning gift from God, is also fun. She's being a brat by picking Fox as her name. Remember, Renard means fox. Basically saying she'd live up to the name, unlike her dad. But at the same time, she's unconsciously giving a nod to him. I can't wait to see how this kid element develops. Come back next time for Revelations. Well, there are less revelations for us, the viewers, than for Matt Bluestone. Mace Malone is back, and so is the Illuminati. Matt's old partner, Martin Hacker, has a surprise for the detective. So what'd you think about all this? Were you really surprised when you realized it was Fox up there who was the ninja? And then how about her little announcement? I mean, did you realize what the whole tests thing was? So... Alright, well, you can comment here, you can comment on the blog. Remember to like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next